Welcome back to Harbor. With the Democrats pushing hard for a vote of no confidence against embattled Attorney General Alberto Gonzales, why is President Bush hanging so tough in defending his old friend? And with Vice President Cheney's former aide Scooter Libby sentenced to 2.5 years of hard time, why are so many Republicans unhappy with Bush hanging tough and not suggesting any kind of help is forthcoming for his hawkish lieutenant? It's the Hardball debate tonight with former Bush speechwriter David Frum and Democratic strategist Jenny Backus. Good evening. Thank you. Should the president intervene in the judicial process with regard to Scooter Libby? Let's start with him.
Well,
David.
He's got a lot more options than I think people understand. We had a very interesting discussion on the National Review website. One of the president's powers is the power of respite. That is, he doesn't have to give him a full pardon. He can simply say, you don't go to jail until your appeals are exhausted. Because this judge...
What's the precedent for that?
Oh, President Clinton did it. President Truman did it. It goes back. Many, many presidents have done it. And it allows you just say the sentence doesn't go into effect pending the completion of the appeal. Normally, the idea that you would send somebody to jail when he has such powerful appeals as Scooter Libby has got, that's very unusual. And Judge Walton's
not for Judge Walton, it's not. Yeah, Jenny, should the president intervene in this legal case or not?
Absolutely not. I think he should not do it because it's the wrong thing to do, but he should also not do it because it's another thing that he's doing to really harm the chances of these Republican candidates in 2008. Rudy Giuliani, Mr. Law and Order prosecutor, you heard him talk in that CNN debate. I thought he was like channeling some gooey liberal I mean, he was Mr. Anti-Law and Order. What about the rule of law in this country? You do something wrong, you're found guilty by the system. The Republican Party is rocking away from truth, justice, and the American way. And Superman.
Those are some of the rules of law. They are rules too.
You sound, to use you guys' phrase, Clinton-Tonian on this. I mean,
if President Clinton had been willing to take a pardon, that would have been terrific. What he did was he just actually violated the rules. And what is happening with Scooter.
Hey, let me ask you,
is an attempt to say, look, he was convicted.
And now, but he shouldn't go to jail. It's like Paris Hilton in the legal world. What would be the president's motive for intervening
in this particular case? What would he say to the American people when he did such a thing? You call it respite, you can call it commutation at some point, you can call it pardon at some point. What would be his statement to the public when he did so? Intervening in a judicial case.
Last week, a woman who had been wrongly treated by her husband, went into his bedroom, shot him dead with a shotgun, and got a sentence about as tough as the sentences Scooter Libby got for misremembering, or you can say he lied, but whatever it was he did, that he, in a case where there was no underlying legal infraction and where the actual wrongdoer, the person who actually did the offense that is supposed to justify this enormous sentence, is sitting on boards of directors, is a respected member of the Washington establishment.
But that's the president's call. In other words, the president, you believe, should intervene in this case.
The president should intervene, certainly stop the sentence from going into effect, let Scooter Libby win his appeal.
Why should he do that?
Because the punishment is just so out of line with reality. I mean, Richard Armitage, if you believe, let's say, believe that this is a serious crime.
I just want to ask you, perjury and obstruction of justice are the very charges leveled against President Clinton. Yes. They were the basis for him to be impeached by the Congress and almost convicted in the Senate, with 50 Republican votes voting for his removal from office for the charge of perjury and obstruction of justice. Why did it justify that extreme historic step? And this doesn't. It doesn't justify 2.5 years in prison.
Scooter Libby is punished. He faces fines.
How is he punished if his sentence is respite or commuted or pardon? How is that a punishment?
A pardon does not wipe away the fact. It will not wipe away the disbarment.
Should President Clinton have been impeached for a perjury and obstruction of justice?
I think the Republicans did right to impeach President Clinton, which would have done, it would have removed him from office, which Scooter Libby has also been removed from office. But it is sort of shocking. If there had been two presidents at the same time, both of whom had done the exact same thing, and one were punished and the other not, I mean, the Armitage question, I mean, it must not you too. It must not you too.
You can jump in here, but it seems to me you've made an argument that I've heard before, which is there's no underlying crime here. What was the underlying crime that Bill Clinton committed? What was his underlying crime?
I'm not saying in the Scooter Libby case that there was no underlying crime. I'm saying the person who committed the underlying crime has gone away scot-free.
Is not lying to a grand jury an underlying crime? Is perjury an underlying crime?
Absolutely, it is.
Well, people routinely do that and go to jail. What's different about Scooter Libby?
The question is,
he is the Paris Hilton. It's like getting special treatment.
What kind of punishment should he get? And presidents have pardons. They can say the punishments look severe. They can have all kinds of reasons for saying, as President Clinton did with a whole host of people on his last day, this punishment seems out of line to me.
Scooter Libby is the highest level official since the Reagan era, since Iran-Contra has been prosecuted. So I don't don't think the comparison with the Clinton administration is fair. But here's my question to you. What kind of message does it send to the American people when this president says that the law doesn't count for him? Don't you think that they're just walking into the same... It does.
It's just bizarre to say, after a trial, after an investigation, after conviction, that the law doesn't count. The question is, what should the punishment be?
Let me ask you this. Do you accept the verdict precedent that if you accept a pardon, you're accepting guilt?
I don't.
Jerry Ford believed in that. That's why he gave Nixon the pardon. Do you believe that Scooter Libby should accept guilt as implicitly accept guilt as in accepting a pardon?
You mean as a legal matter or as a psychological matter? I mean,
no, legally. No, accepting according to the precedents in the court. And this came through in all the discussions of the Nixon pardon.
I'm really not sure I understand the question. Like, should he make some kind of statement or
do you believe that it carries the implication of acceptance of guilt if he accepts a pardon?
No, I don't think it does. I mean, I think you could say...
Well, that would be breaking with precedent.
You could say, if you are the person and you think you've been wrongly convicted and you accept a pardon...
Well, then Nixon never accepted guilt, then you're saying.
I have no idea.
Well, that's what Jerry Ford thought.
I'm with you on this. I mean, look, I think that's what Bush is going to try to justify, that Scooter Libby accepts that he's wrong, but he doesn't really have to be punished as much.
See, there's no remorse in this case. There's a lot of factors you usually get in a case involving pardon, and in this case, there's been no remorse or admission of guilt, even implicitly or explicitly. So I am. Well, to tell you.
Sorry, you say if you, as president, are convinced that there's been a monstrous perversion, error of justice, and things have been done wrong, that you can't pardon the person unless you think that you can only pardon the people you think are rightly convicted. You can't pardon the people you think are wrongly convicted.
The precedent is if you accept a pardon, you've accepted guilt. That's the precedent.
So a person who believes he was wrongly convicted cannot accept a pardon? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's a question of whether he chooses to do so.
So you say, okay, I think because I think I'm innocent, therefore I'm going to spend 20 years in jail?
Pardon is not illegal. It's an extra legal method of getting a person sprung. It's not saying you're innocent. See, pardon is not to say the person was innocent.
So you're saying a person who believes he's innocent should stay in jail?
No, I'm saying if a person accepts a pardon, you're accepting an extra legal method of springing them. They're not accepting acquittal. It's not an acquittal.
Look, obviously it will not be as good for Scooter Libby.
If you want to have it both ways, where the guy accepts a pardon and is perceived to be innocent, that's extraordinary.
I can see that from Scooter Libby's own point of view, it is not as good to be pardoned as it would be to be acquitted. Obviously, that's right. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think this idea of a respite is attractive, because it allows an appeal to go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Thank you for coming. It's a difficult case. Do you think he should be pardoned?
I hope he will not go to jail.
But ultimately, you think he should be pardoned rather than serve jail?
I would ideally like to see him win on appeal. That would be the best possible outcome after a respite. If he loses on appeal, then I think that the president should pardon him.
There's such an uproar out there. I hear from friends of mine who want him, who really want this guy pardoned. I hear it from so many people, and especially Fred Thompson, who's made it into a cause celeb. I think he will be pardoned. I think the pressure's overwhelming. Do you think he'll be pardoned?
No, I don't. And I think that if he does get pardoned, Fred Thompson and Rudy Giuliani are in big trouble, and John McCain in the presidential race, because
they can't let this guy go to hard time. Because I think he was serving the president's policies throughout everything he did. Anyway, thank you, David Frum. It's an ironic situation. Anyway, Jenny Backus.